Life is a constant flow of change. Nothing in this world remains the same. Seasons shift, people grow, relationships evolve, and even the strongest structures eventually crumble. Yet, despite knowing this, many of us struggle with impermanence. We cling to what is familiar, fearing loss and resisting the natural cycle of change. However, impermanence is not something to be feared. It is the very essence of life itself. Understanding impermanence can bring both wisdom and peace. When we embrace the truth that everything is temporary, we stop fighting against reality and start living more fully. We appreciate the present moment, let go of unnecessary suffering, and find the courage to grow. This teaching explores the impermanence of life through 5 key lessons: embracing change, overcoming attachment, finding peace, living in the present, and using impermanence as a path to growth. By accepting life's transient nature, we can navigate challenges with grace and discover a deeper sense of meaning. Now, let us begin our journey into the wisdom of impermanence. Life is constantly changing, and nothing in this world remains the same. This truth, known as impermanence, is one of the fundamental realities of existence. From the moment we are born, we begin to change. Our bodies grow, our thoughts evolve, and our relationships shift. No matter how much we try to hold on to things, time moves forward and everything eventually fades away. Impermanence can be seen in nature. The seasons cycle from spring to winter, flowers bloom and wither, and rivers carve new paths over time. Just as nature never remains static, our own lives follow the same pattern. Friendships, jobs, emotions, and even the cities we live in are all subject to change. Some changes happen slowly, while others occur suddenly, but the principle remains the same. Nothing is permanent. While this idea might seem unsettling, it also offers a deep sense of liberation. Many people suffer because they resist change. They wish that happy moments could last forever, and that painful experiences would never arise. But when we understand that everything is transient, we learn to let go of our resistance and flow with the natural rhythm of life. Instead of fearing change, we can embrace it as an opportunity to grow and adapt. For example, imagine a person who loses their job. At first, they might feel devastated, believing that they have lost something permanent. However, if they recognize that jobs, like all things, are temporary, they may see this change as a chance to explore new opportunities. Perhaps this loss will lead them to a better career path, one that aligns more with their passions. The truth of impermanence also teaches us to appreciate life more deeply. When we recognize that every moment is fleeting, we stop taking things for granted. A simple conversation with a loved one becomes precious because we know that nothing lasts forever. A sunset, though brief, is beautiful precisely because of its impermanence. Ultimately, embracing the transient nature of life leads to greater wisdom and peace. It helps us detach from material possessions and external circumstances, focusing instead on inner stability. When we accept that everything changes, we become less fearful of loss and more present in the here and now. Instead of clinging to what is temporary, we learn to find joy in each passing moment. Impermanence is not something to be feared. It is a truth that allows us to live more fully. In a state of change, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and open our hearts to the beauty of life as it unfolds. One of the greatest sources of suffering in life is attachment. As human beings, we naturally develop emotional connections to people, possessions, and experiences. We cling to the things we love, hoping they will last forever. However, because everything is impermanent, attachments inevitably lead to pain when the things we hold dear change or disappear. Consider how we often struggle with loss. When a loved one passes away, when a relationship ends, or when we lose something important, we experience grief, sadness, and even despair. These emotions arise because we become attached to things as if they were permanent. We forget that everything is temporary, and when reality reminds us of this truth, we suffer. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. This does not mean we should not love or care about anything. It means that we should love without clinging. True love is not about possessing someone or something. It is about appreciating them while they are present and accepting their impermanence when they change or go away. A simple example of attachment leading to suffering is seen in material possessions. Imagine someone who buys an expensive car and becomes deeply attached to it. They constantly worry about scratches, accidents, or theft. If the car is damaged or lost, they feel devastated because their happiness depended on it. However, if they had appreciated the car without attachment, understanding that it is just a temporary object, they would not experience such intense suffering when it is gone. This principle also applies to personal identity and ego. Many people suffer because they attach themselves to a certain self-image. They may define themselves by their job, wealth, beauty, or social status. When these things change, they feel lost or worthless. But if they understand that identity is also impermanent, they can adapt and find peace regardless of external circumstances. A powerful way to overcome suffering caused by attachment is through mindfulness and acceptance. When we practice mindfulness, we become aware of the present moment without grasping at it. We learn to enjoy life's experiences while understanding that they will not last forever. Instead of trying to hold on to happiness, we simply experience it fully while it is present. Detachment does not mean indifference, it means freedom. When we free ourselves from attachment, we do not become cold or emotionless. Instead, we learn to love with openness, to enjoy life without fear of loss, and to accept change with grace. We can still have relationships, ambitions, and desires, but we approach them with wisdom, knowing that all things come and go. In the end, suffering arises not from life's impermanence itself, but from our resistance to it. When we accept that everything is temporary, we no longer feel desperate to hold on to things. We become lighter, more flexible, and more at peace with the natural flow of life. Impermanence is often seen as a source of suffering, but in reality, accepting it can bring great peace. Many people struggle with change because they resist the natural flow of life. They want stability, predictability, and permanence. However, life does not work that way. Everything, our relationships, careers, health, and even our emotions, is in a constant state of flux. When we stop resisting this truth and embrace impermanence, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and discover a deeper sense of peace. One reason impermanence leads to peace is that it allows us to let go of fear. Many of our anxieties come from the desire to control the future. We worry about losing our loved ones, failing in our ambitions, or facing unexpected hardships. But when we accept that change is inevitable, we no longer feel the need to cling so tightly to what we have. Instead, we learn to trust the process of life. This does not mean we stop caring or making efforts, but rather that we approach life with openness and flexibility. For example, consider a person who is afraid of aging. They may spend enormous energy trying to resist the natural process, using cosmetic treatments, avoiding birthdays, or feeling distressed every time they see a wrinkle. However, no matter how much they resist, aging will still happen. If instead they embrace impermanence, they can find peace by appreciating the beauty of each stage of life, rather than fearing the inevitable. Another way impermanence leads to peace is by helping us let go of grudges and regrets. Many people hold on to past mistakes or resentments, replaying painful memories in their minds. But if we recognize that nothing lasts forever, including our emotions and experiences, we can learn to forgive, both ourselves and others. Just as a storm eventually passes, so too does pain. Clinging to past suffering only prolongs our misery, while accepting change allows us to move forward with a lighter heart. Additionally, embracing impermanence encourages us to live in the present moment. If we understand that nothing lasts forever, we naturally appreciate life more deeply. We no longer rush through experiences or take things for granted. Instead, we savor each moment, knowing that it is unique and will never come again. A simple meal, a conversation with a friend, or a walk in nature becomes more meaningful when we realize that these moments are fleeting. In Buddhist teachings, impermanence is not something to fear, but something to celebrate. It is because things change that growth is possible. A difficult situation will not last forever, and neither will a joyful moment. This truth allows us to approach life with equanimity, remaining steady whether we are experiencing pleasure or pain. When we embrace impermanence, we no longer struggle against reality. We find peace by accepting life as it is, flowing with change instead of resisting it. In doing so, we open ourselves to a life of freedom, wisdom, and deep contentment. One of the most powerful lessons we can learn from impermanence is the importance of living in the present moment. Because everything changes, we can never be certain about the future, and the past is already gone. The only thing we truly have is the present. Yet many people spend their lives either regretting the past or worrying about what is to come, missing the beauty of what is happening right now. When we fail to live in the present, we often take life for granted. We assume that we will always have more time, more opportunities, and more chances to experience happiness. But time moves quickly and nothing stays the same. Relationships evolve, health declines, and circumstances shift. If we are always looking ahead or behind, we may realize too late that we have missed the moments that truly matter. Imagine a person who spends years chasing career success, constantly thinking, "I will be happy when I get promoted," or "I will relax once I have enough money." In this endless pursuit, they forget to appreciate the simple joys of daily life, the laughter of their children, the warmth of a morning sun, or the comfort of a good meal. By the time they achieve their goal, they may find that life has already passed them by, and they never truly lived in the moments that mattered most. Living in the present does not mean we should ignore our responsibilities or stop planning for the future. It simply means that we should engage fully in each moment, appreciating what is before us without being consumed by what was or what will be. When we eat, we should taste our food instead of scrolling through our phones. When we talk to someone, we should truly listen rather than thinking about our next task. One of the best ways to cultivate presence is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware of the present moment without judgment or distraction. It teaches us to experience life as it is rather than how we wish it to be. Simple activities like deep breathing, meditation, or even just noticing the sensations of walking can help us anchor ourselves in the now. Children are great examples of living in the present. They do not dwell on the past or stress about the future. Instead, they immerse themselves in whatever they are doing, playing, laughing, or exploring with curiosity. As adults, we can learn from this natural ability to be fully engaged in life. When we embrace the present, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We stop chasing an illusion of permanent happiness and instead find joy in simple, fleeting moments. We realize that peace is not something to be achieved in the future. It is something available to us right now, in this very breath, in this very moment. By living in the present, we honor the truth of impermanence, making each day meaningful. Instead of fearing change, we cherish the life we have now, knowing that every moment is a gift. Impermanence is often associated with loss, but it is also the key to growth and transformation. If nothing ever changed, there would be no progress, no learning, and no new opportunities. The fact that everything is in motion allows us to evolve, adapt, and become wiser over time. When we embrace change as a natural part of life, we stop fearing it and instead see it as a pathway to growth. Think about nature. A seed must break open and transform in order to become a tree. A caterpillar must go through metamorphosis to become a butterfly. Similarly, human beings must go through struggles, changes, and even suffering to become stronger and wiser. If we resist change, we remain stuck, unable to reach our full potential. But if we accept impermanence, we learn to move with life rather than against it. Challenges and hardships are some of the greatest teachers of impermanence. A difficult experience, such as losing a job, ending a relationship, or facing an illness, can feel devastating at first. But over time, we often look back and see how those experiences helped us grow. They may have led us to new opportunities, new perspectives, or a deeper understanding of ourselves. Pain, though uncomfortable, often pushes us to change in ways we never would have chosen on our own. For example, imagine someone who faces rejection in their career. At first, they might feel like a failure, believing that their dream is over. However, if they understand that setbacks are temporary, they can use the experience to grow. Perhaps the rejection encourages them to develop new skills, explore different paths, or discover a passion they had never considered. Instead of seeing change as an obstacle, they begin to see it as a stepping stone towards something better. Impermanence also allows us to reinvent ourselves. Who we were 5 years ago is not the same as who we are today. Our thoughts, beliefs, and desires evolve as we gain new experiences. This means that if we are unhappy with certain aspects of our lives, we have the power to change them. We are not fixed, unchanging beings. We are fluid, capable of transformation at any moment. Spiritual growth also depends on embracing impermanence. Many religious and philosophical traditions teach that enlightenment or wisdom comes from letting go of attachments and surrendering to the natural flow of life. When we stop clinging to a rigid sense of identity or expectations, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of peace and understanding. Ultimately, impermanence is not something to resist, it is something to embrace. It is the reason we can heal, learn, and become better versions of ourselves. When we stop fearing change, we begin to welcome it as an essential part of life's journey. Instead of mourning what is lost, we celebrate what is possible. Every moment of transformation is an opportunity to grow, to love, and to live more fully.